Determinants of working capital. First one is maintaining the adequate working capital. So the management of working capital is an essential task of the finance manager. He has to ensure that the amount of working capital available is neither too large nor too small for its requirements. A large amount of working capital would mean that the company has idle funds. Since the funds have a cost, the company has to pay a huge amount as interest on such funds. Say, for example, if you borrow a money 1 lakh rupees from your friend, so you just kept it in your pocket. So after 1 month, you have to pay the interest, but that 1 lakh is still is in your pocket. It means it is an idle fund. So in such a scenario, without a benefit, why should we keep excess money? Likewise, if working capital has large amount of funds, it means the company has idle funds. So if the firm has inadequate working capital, such firm runs the risk of insolvency. So maintaining adequate working capital is not just important in short term. Sufficient liquidity must be maintained in order to ensure the survival of the business in the long run as well. A finance manager needs to plan and compute the working capital requirement for its business. And once the requirement has been computed, he needs to ensure that it is financed properly. While whole exercise, see, this whole exercise is nothing but the working capital management. Some of the factors which needs to be considered while planning the working capital management. So first and foremost thing is cash management. Management of cash is an important function of the finance manager. It is concerned with the managing of cash flows into the firm and cash flows out of the firm and cash flows within the firm. And at the same time, cash balances held by the firm at a point of time by financing deficit or investing surplus cash. So if we have in surplus cash, we have to invest. So where we have to invest? Okay, we'll discuss it further. The main objectives of cash management for a business are provide adequate cash to each of its unit, and the management must ensure no funds are blocked in idle cash. At the same time, the surplus of cash should be invested in order to maximize the returns of the business. So cash planning is a technique to plan and control the use of cash. This protects the financial condition of the firm by developing projected cash statement from a forecast of expected cash inflows and outflows. So we have to prepare a projected cash statement by expecting cash flows and cash outflows for a period. This may be done periodically, either on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis. So those are all projected cash flows. So with the development of technological advancement, The present banking system is switching over to the computerization of banks, and it offers efficient banking services and cash management services to their customers. So, some of the cash management techniques are nothing but electronic fund transfer and zero balance account, money market operations, petty cash system, and management of temporary cash surplus. See, with the electronic fund transfer, instant updation of accounts will happen, and quick transfer of funds happen. Wherever we need funds, we can easily transfer from one location to another location. Instant information about foreign exchange rate also available because of this computerization, because of this technological advancement. So where do we have to invest in the where do we have to invest the surplus cash? So short term deposits in banks or financial institutions, or we may offer to other organizations as well. And short term debt market instruments, we can invest in the short term debt market instruments, and we can invest in also in the long term debt market instruments, or we can invest blue chip listed companies. And while investing this surplus cash, we have to careful about the safety. So whenever we need it, it must be liquidated, and that securities must be marketable. So these things finance manager has to be careful. So management of marketable securities is an integral part of investment of cash, which can be liquidated when need for cash is felt. So coming to the inventory management. Coming to the inventory management, inventories constitute a major element of working capital. It is an important that investment inventory is properly controlled. So inventory management covers a large number of problems like fixation of minimum and maximum levels of inventory, and determining the size of inventory to be carried, and deciding about the issues involved, and receipts and inspection procedures, determining the economic order quantity, proper storage facilities, and keeping check over outdatedness of the material, and ensure control over movement of inventories by following suitable methods based on the nature of the business, like first in first out, last in first out, just in time purchase, economic order quantity. So each of the technique has its own value, so based on the business nature of the business. So coming to the management of receivables, management of receivables refers to planning and controlling of debt. As a part of increasing in sales, we have to encourage credit sales. It means the level of debtors will increase. So, large amounts are tied up in receivables. Large amounts are tied up in receivables or debtors. There are chances of bad debts and there will be cost of collection of debts. On the opposite side, if the investment in receivable is low, if we maintain receivables in very low, it means the sales are restricted. So it is a chance to the competitor to go forward to occupy the market. Therefore, management of receivable is an important issue and requires proper policies and their implementation. So, identify the appropriate credit policy. Credit terms which will attract the customers and make sure the cash conversion cycle will be counterbalanced by increasing revenue and hence return on capital by using the tools like early bird discounts and allowances. So if we offer early bird discount to a debtor, so they will try to pay quickly so that we can convert into cash. So coming to the financing of the financing options. So these financing options where after determining the amount of working capital required, the next step to be taken by the finance manager is to arrange the funds. So finance manager selects sources to arrange funds. So such sources are spontaneous sources or negotiable sources. Spontaneous sources are nothing but arise in the course of business operations like trade credit, credit from employees, credit from suppliers. So negotiable sources which have to be specially negotiated with the lenders. Say for example, commercial banks, financial institutions or general public. So some of the financing options are like commercial papers. Commercial paper is an unsecured promissory note issued by a firm to raise funds for a short period. This instrument that enables high rated corporate borrowers for short term borrowings and provides an additional financial instrument to investors with a freely negotiable interest rate. So another financing option is funds generated from the operations of the business. The two main components of funds generated from operations are first one profit, another one depreciation. So another financing option is public deposits. Deposits from the public are one of the important source of finance, particularly for well established big companies with a huge capital base for short term and medium term, not for the um, small businesses. These are meant for the big companies. So, bill discounting. It is a method of short-term financing. The supplier of goods draws a bill with the direction to the buyer to pay a certain amount of money after a certain period and gets it acceptance from the buyer or drawee of the bill. So, this is the bill discounting. Another one is factoring. Factoring in the sense a firm sells its trade debts at a discount to a financial institution. Financial institution acts like a agent and it collects the debts of the firm for a certain fees. This is called factoring. It is a sort of management of book debts. So these are the financing options. Coming to the nature of business, as I told you, business is every business has its own working capital and it depends on the nature of the business. Say, for example, business like a restaurant, most of the sales are in cash. Therefore, need for working capital is very less for such kind of businesses. So, another one is another determinant factor is market and demand conditions. If an item's demand far exceeds its production, it means demand of an item is more than the production. In such a case, working capital requirement would be less and investment in finished goods inventory would be very less. Coming to the technology and manufacturing policies, in some businesses, the demand for the goods is seasonal. In that case, a business may opt a production policy throughout the year or production during only the demanding season. And coming to the operating efficiency measured in terms of eliminating waste and improving coordination. So, a company can reduce the working capital requirement by doing such things. Coming to the price level changes. For example, prices were raised. If we want to maintain the same level of current assets, higher cash outflow are required. It means higher amount of working capital is required. That is why it is also one of the determinants of working capital. So these are the determinants of working capital.